Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar where we'll be discussing how you can apply for one of the 16 $5,000 American Dream Adult Literacy Initiative grants. Next slide, please. My name is Mary Davis Fournier, and I'm leading the American Dream Literacy Initiative and am Deputy Director of the ALA's Public Programs Office. Throughout this session, I'll be talking to you about the grant guidelines, taking you through them, and providing you with tips on how to write a competitive application. I'll also show you how to submit your proposal using the Foundant application system. I also want to make a quick note that the first portion of this webinar is pre-recorded. Following the presentation, there'll be time for a live Q&A to answer any remaining questions that you have. Next slide, please. For those who may not be familiar with the American Dream Literacy Initiative, it is a recurring grant opportunity offered by the American Library Association with support from the Dollar General Literacy Foundation to help U.S. public libraries expand services for adult English language learners or adults in need of basic education and workforce development. Next slide, please. The initiative started in 2008. And since that time, ALA has offered 8 rounds of funding for a total of 230 grants. This equals more than $1.6 million granted to 202 libraries in urban, suburban, and rural communities in 33 states, with more to come under this deadline. Next slide, please. ALA is pleased to see this initiative continue with the launch of an 8th round of funding. We'll be accepting applications under this current round until January 29th, 2021. Next slide, please. This round of funding will provide up to 16 public libraries with the funding to help develop collections and services for adult learners and or expand on existing programs, add services, and foster community partnerships. Some specific example projects that would be eligible for the grant include increasing computer and internet access and training, augmenting print and digital ESL collections, providing job or back to work training, creating ELL, GED, and citizenship classes, implementing virtual or in-person programs for adult literacy learners, and raising the visibility of services for immigrant populations. Next slide, please. If you are interested in applying for this opportunity, you'll need to first check that you meet all eligibility criteria. To be eligible, you need to be a public library with a demonstrated need and capacity to provide literacy services for adult English language learners. You'll also need to be geographically located in a Dollar General community. This means that your library needs to be located within 20 miles of a Dollar General store or a distribution center or their corporate office. You can check how close you are to any of these by using the Dollar General store locator on their website. A link to the store locator can be found at www.dollargeneral.com. Then there's a /store-locator.html. The main thing here is to make sure that you put the www in, or you may end up with an error page. And finally, if your library has received an American Dream grant in one of the past rounds, you are eligible to apply for another year of funding. However, you are limited to only being eligible to receive 2 consecutive years of funding. So if your institution has already received 2 consecutive years of funding, the library must wait 1 year, sit 1 year out before being able to apply again. Next slide, please. Speaking of eligibility, let's also briefly touch on what grant funds can be used for. If you're selected to receive funding, you may use the grant for project-related expenses. This may include, but is not limited to, purchasing PPE, such as hand sanitizer, masks, plexiglass guards, collection materials such as print, digital, or online resources, tech equipment like virtual meeting licenses, iPads, or Wi-Fi hotspots, project supplies such as markers, index cards, or sticky notes, library staff time or payment for work performed by contractors, teachers, and tutors, and many other things. The only ineligible expenses are bookmobile maintenance and indirect costs, which would be general administrative expenses. Please note we've expanded the examples to include COVID-related expenses, and they are entirely within the eligible expenses. Just explain how your expenses will support your adult literacy project plans and goals in the application. Next slide, please. Okay, so you've reviewed all the eligibility criteria and have determined that your library and project idea will qualify for funding. The next thing you're going to want to do before starting an application is to review the requirements all grantees will be expected to fulfill if selected for funding. And to make things easier to keep track of, we've broken the grant requirements into 3 categories: spending and reporting, project support, and information sharing and marketing. So the next few slides will cover each of these areas and what grantees will need to do to fulfill the requirements. So, spending and reporting. First of all, spend the money. Pretty simple, spend the money. If you get the $5,000 grant, spend the money. We realize that in spending the money and implementing your project, your budget may change. Circumstances, unanticipated circumstances seem to come up more and more these days. And we want you to be able to fulfill your grant obligations, but we also want to be as flexible as possible in terms of the way you are able to support your program ideas through your budget. So to meet all the requirements, we want you to be sure to spend or allocate your funds within 180 days of receipt of those funds, and that you submit any requests for budget variances or any extensions in writing to ALA. So the bottom line there is keep us informed. Send us an email. Let us know how it's going and if you want to make any changes so that we can respond and approve or work with you on your budget so that you are in compliance. Next, you'll also need to, as part of this project, commit to using the Public Library Association's Project Outcome tool to measure the impact and outcome of your adult literacy efforts. Project Outcome, in case you don't know about it, is a free platform that allows libraries to collect and use data for strategic decision-making, planning, and advocacy efforts. If you're not sure how to use it, do not worry. All grantees will receive training and support throughout the project to help them use this easy and free tool. Finally, the final requirement is to submit a final report to ALA with project accomplishments, impact, and how the funds were used. The final report will be due either within 30 days of your library's completion of their project or by January 15th, 2022, whichever comes first. Next slide, please. Project support. So the second set of requirements focuses on you as a project director participating in the online learning sessions that ALA provides to help support you through the project. In total, there are 4 that each awarded library will need to have at least 1 staff member participate in. So these 4 sessions are: 1, an orientation where you'll have a chance to meet the rest of the cohort and we'll review expectations, provide important dates, and answer any remaining questions. Second, a walkthrough of how to use PLA's Project Outcome tool for the project. Third, media training, which will provide tips and best practices for getting the word out there about your project. And then finally, a reporting and evaluation online session where we will walk you through how to complete the final report and what you need to do to help with the initiative's evaluation efforts. So dates and times for these sessions will be provided upon award notification to grantees. Next slide, please. And then the final set of grant requirements centers on information sharing and marketing. To meet these requirements, you'll need to create a plan for getting the word out there and share those plans with your peers in your cohort and also with ALA. We will want to take your best practices, the plans you've developed, and your experience and contribute those resources to our American Dream webpage. We'll be looking to you for your insights, and we'll be wanting to hold you up as an example to other libraries that are also taking on adult literacy projects and work. So for your project, you'll be required to acknowledge funders and to promote the American Dream Literacy Initiative by including the American Library Association logo and the Dollar General logo on all materials. You should also plan to verbally acknowledge ALA and Dollar General Literacy Foundation in any programming you do as part of the project. And finally, upon notification of award status, you'll need to inform your local and statewide library networks about the grant and your specific project. Please also plan to inform your local Dollar General store about your grant and your specific project. We are so grateful to the Dollar General Literacy Foundation for their long-standing support of this initiative. We want to make them feel loved and let our communities know about what they are doing to support the library's work. Next slide, please. Okay, now that we've gone over all the requirements, let's dive into the actual proposal. For this, I'll be walking you through the various application components in Foundant, our grant platform. To access the application, click Apply Online in the Grant Opportunity Information page. This will open the logon page for Foundant in a new window. Next slide, please. If you previously used the Foundant system to apply for a grant through ALA's Public Programs Office, simply enter your email address and password and log in. Note, though, that your login information for Foundant is not the same as your login information if you have an ALA membership. This is a separate system. If you've not used the Foundant system, click Create New Account to set up a profile. You see that circled in red on this slide. Next slide, please. And however, if you feel that someone else at your organization may have already created an account with Foundant to apply for a different grant opportunity, please click the link to verify with our grant administrator before setting up a brand new account. Next slide, please. If you are creating a new account, you will be asked to provide organization information, user information, and executive director information. You have an option to select if the user is the executive director or library director. You'll fill in the required fields and then click the next button to navigate through these sections. And once you get to the final section, you'll create a password and then click Create Account. Next slide, please. Then you will receive an email verification to the email address provided. Once you receive this email, click I've received the email to continue. Next slide, please. After you've completed logging in or setting up your new account, you'll be brought to this screen. From here, you'll see a list of all the open grant opportunities. Scroll until you find the gray box titled American Dream Literacy Initiative and click on the blue Apply button to start your application. See the buttons circled in red on the screen. Next slide, please. This will open up a new American Dream application for you. Before you start working on your proposal, be sure to read over the project guidelines. These guidelines can be accessed by clicking on the blue Project Guidelines hyperlink under Instructions in the application. You see it circled in red on the screen. Next slide, please. Once you've read over the guidelines, you'll want to start working on your application by entering American Dream Literacy Initiative under Project Name, circled in red here. Next slide, please. After that's done, scroll down to the next section, which will ask you to enter information about the project director. The project director should be the person who is responsible for coordinating all elements of the American Dream Grant on behalf of the library. They will be the main contact for the library's proposed project and will be responsible for completing grant reporting. To complete this section, you'll need to provide the project director name, email, phone number, title, institution, and address. Next slide, please. After filling out all the project director fields, you can move on to the next section where you'll need to provide information about the library and the community the library serves. For this, you'll need to provide your library type, total population served, community type, and average monthly visitors. Next slide, please. You'll also need to include some data that may require additional research. This consists of the percentage of the population that speaks a language other than English in the home, the number of full and part-time staff that the library employs, the number of volunteers the library has, and the number of staff and/or volunteers who are currently providing literacy services for adult learners. After completing the library section, you'll move on to the proposal narrative section. This is the heart of your proposal and the part you'll likely spend the most time on. To start this section, you'll need to provide a name for your American Dream Literacy Initiative project and what your proposed activities will include. You'll also need to indicate the need for literacy services for adult learners and/or basic education and workforce development for adults at your library and in your community. This includes providing specific information about your community, including geographic area, unemployment rates, median household income, the percentage of the population living below the poverty line, what the estimated literacy rates are, and what the high school's graduation rate is. For these fields, you should be able to find the information you need by pulling the most recent US Census data. So this is a section where you are making the case for need in your community for your library. Data always helps bolster that case. Next slide, please. Next, you'll need to provide narrative responses to 3 prompts. Note, you may want to prepare your answers in Microsoft Word or another word processing program and paste your responses into the application when you're ready. The first prompt centers on describing in detail your proposed project for adult learners. Your response cannot exceed 500 words and should include information about the project design, whether your project services are new or whether you're expanding your services, who you'll be serving, and whether the population is new to your community, who's going to staff the project, including library staff and any contract or partner organizations or volunteers. What has helped you determine the needs of the adult learner population you serve? What data and community engagement has helped you understand those needs? how the literacy services for adult learners may benefit the library and the community under your design. And if your project will include bookmobile literacy services for adult learners, please let us know that. And note that if your project does include this, you should describe the current bookmobile services and how the proposed project will enhance or augment them. Next slide, please. The next prompt is about your outreach and collaboration plans. This response is a 250-word limit, so shorter than the last one, and it should include details about your plan for working with partners and the community to facilitate and promote the project. If you're working with community partners, be sure to list who they are and to mention how they will be contributing to the project. If you're planning to incorporate volunteers into the initiative, be sure to also describe how they will be contributing to the project. Next slide, please. The third narrative prompt focuses on evaluation and sustainability. This section limits your response to 250 words, and it asks you to include details on how your library currently measures outcomes for adult literacy efforts, and asks you also to talk about how your library plans to continue to provide literacy services when the grant ends. So you know that as part of this project, you'll participate in project outcome, and this is a good place to describe your current measurement efforts, whether you are planning to enhance or create those efforts, whether you are looking at blending project outcome data into your current efforts. Think about that a little bit and bring that into this part of the narrative. Next slide, please. After completing your narrative response, you'll need to acknowledge that your library agrees to use the American Dream Project Outcome Measurement platform and tool for participant evaluation for any grant-funded programs. To agree to this, click the checkbox next to "I acknowledge and agree to the terms above." Next slide, please. Section 5 of the application will ask you to upload letters of support and any additional materials. So, uploading additional materials that support your proposal is optional. Those materials may include sample promotional materials, flyers, videos, a draft program curriculum. The idea of uploading these is to give the peer reviewers, the folks who will be reviewing the proposal, a better idea of sort of the work you've done in the past and what that's looked like. It is optional. Required are at least 2 letters of support that you need to upload. These letters of support can come from partner organizations, community leaders, and or your library administration or board who are in favor of or will be supporting the literacy project, the adult literacy project you're proposing. If the organization submitting letters are contributing to your project, please ask them to describe their financial or in-kind contribution in the letter. Next slide, please. In section 6, you'll need to provide a brief narrative that details the breakdown of the grant funds you're requesting. So this is your project budget and how you're explaining or justifying those expenses. Please be sure to categorize the anticipated project expenses in the categories you see here on the screen: personnel, collection development, outreach and collaboration materials, printing, design and distribution, media marketing and production, technology, training, travel, and other. You may not have expenses in every one of these categories, but please abide by these categories as you complete this section. If your total project budget will exceed $5,000, please be sure to indicate which expenses will be covered by grant funds, which will be covered by in-kind funds, and which will be covered by other funding sources. Please note that you are restricted to requesting $5,000 in grant funds as part of this budget. So here's an example. If you're requesting $5,000 for collection development, we're looking to you to provide specifics on how you intend to spend grant funds to expand the print, digital, software, or online resources. Please note that in this, those grant funds will not exceed $5,000. And if we are able to award these funds to you, they will be awarded on a one-time basis and may not be used for bookmobile maintenance. So this section does limit your responses to 500 words. Next slide, please. The final section asks you to identify a certifying official who is authorized to submit applications for funding on behalf of the institution. This certifying official may vary depending on your institution, but it's typically the library director. It can be the same person listed as the project director and or the person submitting the proposal, as long as they're able to submit applications for funding on behalf of their institution. So to complete this section, you'll need to provide the certifying official's name, institution, and email. Next slide, please. Finally, you will be asked to certify that your organization is neither presently debarred, suspended, proposed for debarment, declared ineligible, nor voluntarily excluded from participation in this transaction by any federal department or agency. To check the status of your institution, click System for Award Management. This will open the sam.gov website in a new window where you can search for your institution and verify that your organization is not listed as ineligible. Once you've completed all information, you can submit application. After you submit, you can no longer edit your application. So if you're not ready to submit, hit the white Save Application button, not the Submit Application button. Hitting the white Save Application button will make it so that you are able to access your draft when you log back into your account using the Edit Application link. Next slide, please. So to wrap this up, I want to offer some top tips that we have gleaned from our advisors and past participants as you work on your application. So be sure to read the grant guidelines carefully. They have so much pertinent information about the opportunity that is really critical to ensure that your application is complete and competitive. Be sure to answer all the questions thoroughly in the application. Provide as much detail as you can for each of those narrative responses. It will really help reviewers understand your library and your proposed project. Whenever possible, provide numbers and examples to illustrate and justify what you are saying in your narrative proposal. Data is very helpful. Find partners, community partners who are willing to work with you on your project. It will not only lighten the load for you, but it will go a long way to helping you reach the different aspects of your community that you want to focus your project efforts on. And finally, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the ALA Public Programs Office at publicprograms@ala.org. We will respond to any questions you have quickly and efficiently. That is a commitment from us. Next slide, please. So with that, I want to thank all of you for listening to this presentation. We will now switch over to the live question and answer period to answer any remaining questions that you may have. Thank you. Hi, everyone. If you can hear me, or if you cannot hear me clearly, please indicate that in the chat. Okay, it seems like everyone can hear, so I'm hoping we can use our remaining time to answer your questions. Samantha's been keeping track of them, and I've also been looking at chat, and that was a lot of information to throw at you. I just want to call out that the slide in front of you right now is the important dates that this program and this grant opportunity sort of hinge on in terms of process. And otherwise, let's see what everyone's thinking and what your questions are.
So the first question that we have is, can we put in numbers we had pre-COVID for our volunteers and learners served?
Right. So, Christine, thank you for that question. I say yes, you can use those, but understand that we're also looking to you to explain in your narrative any sort of anticipated difference in those numbers, any certainly impact that COVID has had, and how this grant might help you achieve your goals. And we're very aware that for many of you, it may be rebuilding because COVID, most of your programs or services were in person and you are navigating a new terrain. Really, this is about helping you to add or expand your services to adult learners, English language learners in your community. So those previous numbers are great, just put them in context.
Okay. A related question is, attendance of our programs have dropped due to COVID. Will you be looking at a 2-year average for numbers?
Right. So I should make a note. The numbers that we're collecting serve two purposes for us. One is just context so that we have an idea of what your capacity is or has been. And the other is, sort of from the basically starting point to the end, some measurement of growth or difference. I will tell you right now, this year is, in terms of that second indicator, is just going to have a huge asterisk. So we are relying on you to, again, put your numbers in context in the narrative. If you're saying, our attendance has been devastated by COVID for the following reasons, these are the numbers we're at. What we're hoping to do is to, build this up or address it in a different way, or just focus on moving things to a virtual environment. That's great. Just explain that.
Great. The next question is asking for confirmation on what the grant funds can be spent on. So does it have to be solely from one category, such as collections, or can it be from multiple categories?
Okay, so I believe this is from Athens. So yes, you can use the grant funds solely for one category, such as print collection purposes. Absolutely. What I would advise you to do is decide and articulate in your project goals whether your goal for your proposal is to expand your collection, print collection purposes for whatever anticipated outcome. If that is the case, then that is basically what you're explaining in your budget narrative for that sole expense line. If your plan as part of the project scope is to build out your services or transition these services or collections on a number of different fronts, and you are using the grant fund simply for, in this case, print collection purchases, that's great, but it will strengthen your application to explain your overall vision and how you are planning on using the grant funds as part of an overall vision and an overall budget. So that transparency will again create the context that the peer reviewers need to assess what you are hoping to achieve, the level of impact the grant funds will have, and your capacity for achieving those outcomes and goals that you've articulated.
Great. So next question is from Jose, is during the pandemic, patrons might not have internet access. Is there any tips that we have for doing anything around this for this grant with those concerns in mind?
Right. So Jose, oh my gosh, so many patrons don't, and so many patrons in need who have perhaps traditionally received these services from your library or are in need of them, and are sort of feeling this digital divide, to a much greater extent than others in your communities. So, I think acknowledging that in your proposal and perhaps, outlining how you plan to address that will be a very competitive argument to make and proposal to make. I can share with you some of the things that we've been seeing in other programs in the discussion of this. And I'd also encourage anyone who is attending who is dealing with this similar issue in their communities of patrons not having internet access. So the conversion to maybe digital delivery of these services is not even possible, how they have been addressing it. So if you all have anything to share with your peers here, please do. So I'll rattle off a few things that I think we listed as eligible expenses. Some are hotspots, some hotspots, expanded Wi-Fi, print materials, in ways to work with partner organizations for your target groups to get them the materials they need and the learning they need. There are a lot of partnerships I've heard of with local churches, food banks, community institutions to sort of just figure out what's appropriate for your community and reaching these individuals. We've heard, just in terms of even getting the word out, a lot of analog ways of reaching folks. I know of at least one instance where they're doing discussions via phone conference call. That may not, and delivering things via flyer. There's definitely a big gap there. So those are some of the things that come to mind. Part of this also, we don't know how this will end. It is okay to plan for the end of this grant term if you have information on how your library is able to reopen and reactivate. If you do, but some libraries are functioning under, a phase back timeline that they feel is achievable right now, we're willing to work with you on the best information that you have available to you at the time that you submit the grant.
Great. I think that was all the questions that we have so far. So we're going to just leave it open for a little bit longer for those of you who may still be thinking, and feel free to type those in the chat. We'll hang around for a bit. In the meantime, Mary, is there any other tips or advice that you want to give the cohort?
Sure. So a couple things. One, really, everyone is in crisis right now. I encourage you to really just think through the ways that you want, the ways this crisis is impacting your ability to deliver these services and resources, circulate these resources, and what you feel you can do. I do see a question from Chelsea about outside of census data, are there other ways to gather community information? Absolutely. Absolutely, Chelsea. So many ways. And when I say data is good, I'm not just talking about quantitative data. Qualitative is great too. And you may want to, depending on who your partners are in this, you may want to have some conversations with them about what they're seeing with your target population, or with their ability to provide sort of aligned services during this time. And you can present that as information gathered, that is data. If you are able to track or sort of compare and draw implications from the data your library collects, or the user feedback from past years, and contrast it and make your own sort of determinations or judgment or assessment about where things are now and what you're going to need to deliver these services and why they're needed now, that's absolutely legitimate, and what we look to you for, because you are the folks who know your community best. If you have access to or can just shoot out any sort of feedback or question or email to the folks who maybe have participated in these classes or programs in the past, this isn't a bad time to check in on what they need. And if you use volunteers or instructors, do a little check-in with them on what they think is possible too. That's all data. It's all qualitative and legitimate data about your community. Christy's saying they're a smaller library, but have seen a huge jump in immigrant population and are interested in starting a citizenship corner. Any tips to strengthen our proposal? We'd be working with an adult literacy program. So Christy, I'm like reaching across my desk right now, and I am suggesting that one tip would be to read this report, which is downloadable. I bet Samantha can put the link in the site. It's the ALA's report from the New Americans Library Project, and it's about library programs in New Americans. And there's some great broad sort of findings and support there that you can use in your proposal. It might just give you some good context in terms of affirming that what you're experiencing is part of a trend, and that those citizenship corners make a difference. You would definitely want to explain how that citizenship corner would be accessed in person, digitally, through partners in this time that we are in now. And I think the statistics about what that jump in your immigrant population really looks like would be very useful and helpful. Like what that means for just the overall population, what it means for the school district, what it means, whether you're seeing it in terms of library cards is useful, but not maybe the most relevant indicator. Great. Oh yeah, newamericans.ala.org. There you go for that. Yeah, so can I ask a question? If any of you are, as you're posting your questions, still there, I would love to know, whether many of you have been able to continue to do English language learning programs during the pandemic. I assume virtually, but I realize some of you are open as well for service in your buildings. If anyone has, then please put a we have or a yes in the chat. Yeah, so virtual, limited basis. I'd also love to know if any of you are delivering those services either physically or primarily as the deliverers through partner organizations, such as ethnic group support centers or food pantries or social services partnerships, or other areas of religious institutions, other areas of your community. Oh, cool. Rachel, both. Interesting. Through community college, great. Rachel, if you put your partner in there, that'd be interesting for us to know who you're doing this in partnership with. I'm also wondering how many of you are doing workforce development during the pandemic. How many of you are doing workforce development programming or education? Whether that be help with, I think even help with unemployment counts as that, but help navigating resume writing, skills acquisition, anything like that during this time. Yeah. Very challenging. Yeah, very challenging. That's great that you're blogging about it. Mm-hmm. Wow, a virtual job coach. How cool is that? Oh, these community resource kits. That's fascinating, Seth. Uh-huh. Wow. Those really are incredible community resources to distribute. Fantastic. Where are you, Seth? Yeah. Right. That's great. So I can say many of you may want to lean into a lot of these things that you've managed to triage during this time as well. If you see them as services that you feel will need to be sustained over the next year. Remember, this grant is really essentially the implementation period is about 9 months. That has to do with our funding cycle. But you can get a lot done in that 9-month period, and we're very flexible with the working with you to accrue funds as you need to spend them down. Yeah, Northern Kentucky. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. This is, I mean, I'm thanking you all for sharing this in the chat, because I think this really helps us think about also what the needs are. This is an area that I think the field is really going to be paying such close attention to, because it disproportionately affects the underserved and those who are not as digitally connected as some of our community members might be. Yeah. And Kristen, are the social workers still coming in during this period too? Wow. Great. You know, Patricia, that is an interesting point. Storytelling skills. Truly. That's an interesting point. I'm seeing some fantastic work right now across the country that has to do with really preserving these stories during this time. And that storytelling is, I think, sometimes an audio files and intergenerational storytelling and capturing those stories is really a fantastic support to all manner of literacy, especially for English language learners, especially for folks who are building their basic education development. So that sounds fantastic. That's great. Fluency. Oh my gosh, so much fluency can be built with that. I'm inspired by you all. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to ask Samantha. Madeline asks if it'd be possible to share these great examples with all attendees. Did people register? Can we get them the chat?
Yeah, so once the webinar is finished, we will send a link to the recording, and we can also add the chat transcript so that you guys can read over those.
Yeah, so I'd suggest y'all do that. We'll send those out. Thank you, Samantha. And yeah, but Aesop's Fables, I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. So I suggest that then y'all look at this, and it should be pretty easy if you want to make direct contact with some of your colleagues who have been sharing these great examples. If you want to make direct contact with, their names do appear in chat if they've registered their name. Should be pretty easy to track folks down within the library field, um, and sort of ask a little bit more. We may be doing that just to find out a little bit more detail. Some of these are so wonderful. I'm thinking about more questions I must say, how many, I guess I'm wondering how many of you all are planning on or are in the process of or going to be planning to offer services in languages in addition to Spanish or other than Spanish for these services for the English language learners. I'm wondering about what communities might be out there that are on this call that may have English language learners who are coming from a foreign language that is not English and not Spanish. Yeah. Mandarin, Korean, Creole, Haitian. Yeah. A Congolese population. Wow. Fascinating. Hmong. Mhm. Isaria, where are you? Are you in Minnesota? You're in Fresno. So I assume you have connections with folks in in Minnesota, but the Hmong population there is longstanding, and they also have a tremendous amount of service to that community. So I bet there's a lot of knowledge sharing. If you're probably already doing it, but that you may want to explore if you're not. Mandarin, French, Japanese. Wow. Yep. Military bases. Sure. Yeah, second and third generation. Right. In North Carolina and a lot of Minnesota too. Oh, good. I was wondering about Arabic English language and culture exchange. Ugh. And so, no, I cannot remember if it was listed, but translation is absolutely an eligible expense. Absolutely for this grant. And multimedia, I know a lot of libraries are, especially during this time, experimenting with different media. Some of them have, I think, been moving toward even pushing because many people who don't necessarily have Wi-Fi, but maybe learners have have access via their phone only, but have been working on things like TikToks and shorts, video shorts, and other ways to push out language learning to their users. So if any of you take that on, I will be very curious. There seems to be, as we all know, this is a time of just tremendous challenge and capacity challenge, but it's also a time of real innovation. And even the smallest things are innovative right now because we just haven't tried it before. So please know that even the smallest tweaks you're doing are worthwhile. Right, Pro Literacy as a program from Arabic speakers. That you've been sharing. Oh, that's fantastic. Great, they do wonderful things. Yep, Arabic speakers with basic literacy help. That's great. One trend we also really were seeing before the pandemic was, as we talked about a little bit is really combining citizenship centers with many of these efforts. I think that especially is something that is appropriate in the library. It really helps build the sort of different dimensions of what the library can offer. So it's great to hear that that you all are thinking about this and trying to keep it going. I think we're winding down. Is there anything else I'm just going to say also, I am going to cross promote, but we have another grant opportunity available. If you are in a library that is serving a small and/or rural community, our library is transforming communities. Small grants to small and rural libraries is available right now. It's a $3,000 grant. I think Samantha is putting that link up there. And if you're from a small or rural community, I really suggest you check it out. It's essentially a combined professional development grant. So you do a asynchronous online course on facilitation skills as part of this. And then it is the rest of the requirements are just about having a conversation with your community to do some sort of community feedback and engagement that may it can inform your literacy services. It can inform many things. It can just be general issues based and social emotional check-in. But the amount is a $3,000 grant, and it has tremendously broad eligibility criteria for spending, including staff time. So the idea of that grant is just to get money into small and rural libraries and serving small and rural communities, and to expand some facilitation skills for library workers. You don't have to be an MLIS. You don't have to have done this before. For that grant, you do have to be a member of either ARSL, the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, or ALA, but not both. And we're giving out, in total, it will be about 600 $3,000 grants. So if you're in that category, please check it out and apply. We want to get that money into the communities as quickly as we can. Okay, and I think Kirstine, I think, was the one asking about other data. That's what made me think about that grant, because that grant's all about community conversations. You want other types of data besides census and quantitative data. Just do a little bit of conversation facilitation. There's a lot there. Okay. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with this. We will get all this out to you, and we really are going to be looking for your applications. I think there were 30 some folks on this. We really hope to see applications from all of you, and keep doing the great work you're doing. Truly, I'm blown away by this chat. Thank you. Stay safe. Yeah, everyone stay safe.